I'm really a victim of Hollywood movies. When I was doing my flight training, my idea of how airplanes flew was pretty much the same as how ships flew in Star Wars. If you pointed a ship a certain direction, it would just zoom in that direction. If you changed the way it was pointed, it would always travel the direction that it was pointed. And this is why I had real trouble understanding the idea of angle of attack. Um, Angle of attack to me was something that you could see. You could look out and see if the aircraft is pointed in a certain direction. Of course, the thrust is going to carry it in that direction, and its angle relative to the ground is going to be the angle of attack. That probably more closely describes angle of incidence than angle of attack. Angle of attack, as we all know, is the angle that the chord line of the wing makes with the relative wind. And it's not something that's strictly visible. You can't see it just by looking out the window. You need to know what your airspeed is. You need to know how fast you're traveling through invisible air. So this idea that the aircraft travels in the direction it's pointed was something I had to unlearn. And, it's not the fault of an instructor or, I'm sure people had told me before that, angle of attack and angle of incidence were different. And I was sort of thinking of angle of incidence when I should have been thinking of the former. But when you get to seeing how an aircraft can move in one direction and be pointed in a radically different direction in some extreme or slow flight scenarios, then it really starts to click, and it'll click for your students that angle of attack is not something we can see. It's something that we need to think about, obviously, but it's changes depending on the direction we're flying, depending on the angle. Yes, the angle of incidence, the angle that the aircraft is making with the ground. Obviously, it changes with load factor. But once you kind of submit to the idea that you can't see angle of attack, a lot of other things fall into place.